Welcome to Healthy Buzz, the podcast for women who are craving honest answers in a supported community. Hosted by Brandy Homerding, a certified nutrition therapy practitioner who believes your body isn't broken, but the narrative around women's health is. Each week, we're diving deep into holistic health topics, challenging the one-size-fits-all approach, and empowering you to trust your own informed intuition. Get ready to feel seen, supported, and seriously informed. This is Healthy Buzz, where collaboration meets unfiltered transparency in women's health. Hi, Healthy Buzz listeners. I am excited for you to hear our episode today. Today with me, I have Rachel Elder. She is a licensed mental health counselor and the owner of Connected Couples Counseling. She is passionate about helping couples grow out of the gray together. She enjoys digging into relationships and getting into the root issue. Outside of her therapy work, she loves the entrepreneurial journey, iced mochas, and the office. Rachel, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to dive more into this topic because I find that when we talk about like mental health and therapy and counseling, there can be such a stigma attached to it. Let's start off there. Talk to me about why you feel like there is a stigma attached to therapy, counseling, couples needing counseling, all of that.
Yeah. I think the most basic answer is that we live in a society that values independence, and this idea of needing help, needing to lean on someone, needing anybody but yourself to work through something. I think that's where the stigma starts. And I'm biased, but I think the reality is we do need community. We need support. We need other people in our life. But we grow up learning, be independent, be strong, figure this out on your own. It starts at such a young age. So then when we hit that place of, I don't know what to do, I can't figure this out, we then wrestle with, I'm too weak, or I'm not enough, I'm not strong enough. And really it's just, I am a human being who needs relationship and needs support. And sometimes I need someone else's perspective to help me work through it.
Yes, I love that. And I can resonate with that so much about like this independence and wanting to do everything, refusing to ask for help, just even in the like simple day-to-day stuff, not even thinking about like the whole mental health side of things. So I'd love to hear like about a little bit more about you and how you got involved with couples counseling.
Yeah, I have had a roundabout journey of getting to relationship work, even though I should have known it'd be where I landed because I've been obsessed with relationships. I loved being the friend in high school that people came to with their relationship problems, even though I wasn't in a relationship. I'm like, I know how to get you out of this, or I know what to do. It makes me cringe. Today, I used to be like, we're going to do a pro and con list of whether you should stay with your boyfriend or girlfriend or not. And I'm like, oh, how bad that was. But little me was like, this is such a good tool and it works every time.
Those are the tools you had at the time though, too, right?
Yeah. I just always loved relationships. I studied business and psychology in undergrad. I actually went to school for youth ministry and decided I didn't want to take those classes. They were not as engaging for me, and decided on business and psychology, which I knew is either go and get your master's or just enjoy those classes and do something else. So I decided I'll give it a shot. I'll go to grad school, and almost dropped out because it was really intense for good reason. But that first year I was like, I don't know if this is for me. This is a lot of personal work, but I kept with it. I just slowed down my kind of school journey and took it a little bit longer. And I started working with children and adolescents in community mental health setting. And then I worked with neurodivergent individuals for a while. But in every setting, I kept saying, like, is there a way I can work with couples? Like, can we do that? Is that possible? And none of the settings I was in really had me for that role. I was hired to do kind of middle school and high school and young adult, and I loved it. But I really wanted to work with couples. So I got pregnant in 2019 and kind of utilized that as the starting process to finally explore that. And so I spent the majority of growing a baby, building a business, and focusing on that business, working with couples. And I started a month after having a baby, which I would go back and do differently, but it's what I do. It's kind of how I do my life. It doesn't make sense, but it worked. And I started seeing couples on a Saturday in February and loved it and just kept expanding. Moved away from working with teens, still would do it to this day, but It's just not what I'm focusing on. And I've just kept expanding how I do the work. And I love it. It's very rewarding. It can be really hard. But every time I think about like, maybe I should do something else, I'm like, there's no way. This is what I love doing.
Oh, that's amazing. So when we think about couples counseling, who needs couples counseling? Who are the people that should be exploring this or could explore this? Like, is there boxes that we're checking to be like, oh, now it's time to go to couples counseling? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think if you ask any couples therapist, we would say everyone. And I think there are people who might benefit from the support more than everyone. Kind of that stigma. Couples counseling is not just for people in distress, crisis, on the brink of divorce, on the brink of breaking up. There are phases. There are people who are doing well or feeling pretty strong in their relationship and desire to learn some new tools, information, resources to help when life throws a curveball your way. I think any couples therapist would say that's the ideal couple because they're more open-minded, they're more willing to integrate what you're sharing, and it can feel a little bit smoother, easier. Then you got couples who are on the precipice of things going downhill or really spiraling out of control. Definitely want to get in and get some support, help you from sabotaging the dynamic you're in to a worse place. And then I think what most of the world thinks couples counseling is for, and sometimes we find, are the couples in distress. They are in a place where it's constant fighting, disconnection. They're really wondering, can this last? Can we make this work? We work with those couples. It's just trickier because at that point you're disconnected. You've got these defined perspectives of one another that can be rewired and changed. But we talk about how sometimes we'd rather be right than happy. And when you're in that place, you think being right keeps you safe, but it sabotages your ability to find joy and connection and happiness again with your partner. So it can take a little bit longer and it can feel harder. It's still possible to change, but it's just trickier than the couple who's like, we're good. We just want to learn new things. Amazing. Let's do that. You go through it quicker.
Yeah. My husband and I did some couples counseling. Oh gosh, I want to say it was early 2020. And then the pandemic happened. So then we stopped going. But when we went, the therapist was like, the house is not on fire. You guys are good. I'm like, yeah, we don't want to come in here with the house on fire. We just needed some extra tools for the communication process. So can you talk about how important communication is when it comes to a relationship?
I believe that communication is the foundation. I always talk about the 3 C's: communication, conflict, and connection. There's all these other like layers of a relationship, but if you're not communicating well, most likely you're having more conflict, you're feeling disconnected. And so if you want to come in to work on the conflict, we got to help you figure out how to communicate well and effectively first together. So even when they're like, but we communicate fine, I'm like, if you're here for conflict, you're kind of signaling that it's not going as well as you think. So that's typically the basis that I start with the couples I work with. I think most couples therapists do, of really observing, like, how are you talking? What does it look like to share about your day versus dealing with areas you don't agree on or you have conflict around? So I think it's foundational. It impacts every area of your life. It impacts how you feel safe and secure in your relationship. It's kind of the key place I start with couples, and that's with how they are communicating with me, how I watch them communicate with one another, and typically the first steps of what I call my rewire reps with couples is daily questions where they are communicating and connecting. And it never disappears. It's always a rep that we're saying every week, you're doing this. It never stops because the more that you're communicating with your partner, the more you feel connected, the less likely you're finding yourself in conflict as well because you're talking about all the things.
When we think about like couples counseling, sometimes people think that, and maybe this is just my assumption that people are thinking this, that when they find a couples therapist or counselor that they're going to pick sides and tell one person, you're right, you're wrong, to again have that like validation of being right versus not be right. Can you talk a little bit more about like what couples counseling actually looks like in that setting? Are you choosing sides?
No. I want to say, like, I've heard plenty of stories of couples coming in and being like, you're our third, fourth, fifth couples therapist, and hearing that this has happened. And so I don't want to invalidate people's experience that this has happened in therapy for them. And if you are working with a skilled, trained, highly effective couples therapist, they aren't taking sides. It can get misconstrued, I think, when I say, like, it makes sense. Yeah. And from your perspective, you are right on this, that the other partner hears, well, then I must be wrong. And one thing I say with my couples is the reality is you're both right and you're both wrong. Like, that's just the truth. You both hear things and experience things, and they're both real and valid, and they don't always line up, or you can't always agree on it, but you're both right. And pursuing being right doesn't allow you to connect. The goal is to find joy, to find connection, to find happiness together, which means you have to be open to being wrong. And so, yes, sometimes there's that piece of what I'm saying is that they are right about how they feel or how they experience that, how it impacted them. That doesn't mean that you weren't right in the fact that you had a good intention that just didn't impact in the way that you were hoping for, or that how you feel and think about it is wrong. So much of the relationship work we do is about helping people look at the spectrum. It's not either or black and white, good or bad. There is positivity here and negativity. There is good intention that has unintentional bad impact. Like, that's just the reality for all of us, because who I am, who you are, how we hear things, how we see things, how we communicate, it's just not the same. And life would be really boring if it was. So I'm constantly holding, I'm not taking your side and I'm not taking your side. There will be things that you share that make a lot of sense to me because I've felt that before. There will be things you share that I don't quite connect with, and it doesn't mean you're wrong. But my premise is, how do I help you both be open to being wrong? How do I help you both be curious about how each other experienced that or felt, or what you each need? And learning how to say, even if it's not what I need or feel or think, it matters to me because you feel this way. You need this. This is how you're experiencing me. And it's not in alignment with what I want our relationship to be like.
I love that. I think that really brings to the point of like, we are each individuals with individual needs, but we also really care about each other. So it's finding that common ground of how we can support each other and each other's specific needs, which may be different than what my needs.
Yep.
My husband's needs are different than my needs in times of maybe stress or joy or any type of situation.
Yeah. What comes to mind when people are trying to be right is it means somebody wins and someone loses. And if that's what you want your relationship to be like, that's totally your choice and call. And that's not how I work with couples, and it's not my belief. I believe you both need to win, or you win because you are co-facilitating, co-regulating, being a team and taking all of that and saying, okay, let's make this work together. But I think sometimes we grow up seeing people with that kind of mindset of like, I win here and now I feel good or I feel connected. But we call it pseudo connection because it means your partner's feeling less than. And when you map it out, most people are like, no, I don't want it to be that way. And you're like, okay, but that is what you are doing. So something has to shift here for you to be a part of winning together with your partner instead of winning the argument, winning the decision, or whatever it might be.
You brought up a really good point about like sometimes people are responding in a way that maybe they saw maybe in their household growing up. What impact does that have on a relationship? And could somebody benefit from individual therapy? Do you find that couples who are doing individual work also tend to have better experience in the togetherness work?
Oh, I would have answered this differently probably about 7 months ago. So, I mean, the simple answer is, let me start with point one. Our environment of what we grew up in shape how we see relationships and how we attach. It's not about blaming our parents or blaming the caregivers we had, but really understanding that from a young age, we started to learn what love and connection is, or how we get it. And we start to repeat that. We start to wire our brain to say like, oh, love is performing. Love is testing to see if you'll stay. Love is a lack of vulnerability. Love is a lack of affection. we have these experiences that start to shape how we engage. And so it's important to understand that. I sometimes have people come in, they're like, we've already done that. We don't want to go there. And I'm like, I hear you. And I need to understand it because it helps me highlight how we need to shift your viewpoint of love and connection. Because the reality is, it always feels bold, but like none of us grow up learning truly healthy love and connection. Some of us grow up in amazing families, but even in that, they are imperfect people. They are repeating things that they saw growing up, and they might have done a really great job of rewiring what attachment looks like or what love and connection is. And they're human. There's still some unhealthy pieces that got brought into that mix. So it's incredibly important. And so I just always am really compassionate. I'm like, I get it and I hear you. And this is how I work. We are going to explore that because I need to understand where you're both coming from and how it clashes or how it's unintentionally affirming these beliefs and insecurities that you both bring into a relationship. With individual therapy plus couples therapy, the simple answer is yes, I believe it helps. I think it's tricky when you are in couples therapy or relationship therapy and individual therapy at the same time. You have to be really boundaried and intentional with each setting. So what I ask my couples to do is that if they are in individual therapy, I ask them to be boundaried in talking about their relationship in that setting. And the reason for that is it's unintentional, but sometimes the individual therapist is saying or encouraging or suggesting action steps, ways to cope or process that work against the relationship work we're doing. So I will typically say, like, if you're doing individual therapy, great. Focus on yourself, focus on coping with, if you're dealing with anxiety, depression, trauma, you might still be talking about some of how your relationship is impacting that, but to the best of your ability, hold your relationship work to our couples work, because we don't want couples dividing and conquering emotionally. That impacts us creating secure attachment and feeling safe and seen. And what can happen in individual therapy is we might be like, oh, I can't talk about this with my partner, so I'm going to go to my therapist. We sometimes get that validation and empathy kind of echo of like, I am right, I'm valid to feel this way. Yes, and I have to work on this with my partner. I think it just takes a good collaboration with the clients I work with, or if you're a couples therapist doing that work, and just respecting what each of these settings are for. So I say yes, but I'm also with a caveat of let's talk about how to do this well so it doesn't sabotage the work we're doing together.
That makes a ton of sense, because also too, if somebody's doing individual work, the therapist is only getting that one side of the story. They're not getting in order to make a really great recommendation on strategies, because they don't have the full picture, and there's two sides to every story. So I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. Hey, Healthy Buzz community. Have you been curious about using a continuous glucose monitor to unlock powerful insights to your metabolic health? Imagine seeing in real time how your body responds to different meals, different workouts, and also the effects of stress. Now, what if you could experience those benefits without being locked into any type of recurring subscription like some of the other continuous glucose monitor programs out there? With my Blood Sugar Savvy course, you'll get exactly that. You'll receive access to 7 engaging learning modules, 2 continuous glucose monitors to start your wellness journey, plus 4 weekly one-on-one video strategy sessions with me where I'll personally guide you to understanding your CGM data. We'll work together to identify your unique blood sugar patterns and create customized strategies for better energy, mood, and overall well-being. Oh, and by the way, this is especially crucial during your peri- and postmenopausal years. Blood Sugar Savvy is about understanding your body on a deeper level, implementing practical strategies, and gaining sustainable knowledge to support your overall health and wellness. Ready to get Blood Sugar Savvy and take control of your metabolic health? Healthy Buzz listeners can save $30 simply by using the code BUZZ at checkout when you enroll at bcw.bcollectivewellness.com/Blood Sugar Savvy. That's bcw.bcollectivewellness.com/Blood Sugar Savvy. Don't forget to use that code BUZZ at checkout for your $30 savings. Your personalized blood sugar journey starts now. How can couples truly benefit from couples counseling?
One, they have to be open to being wrong.
That's so hard.
So hard, but it is when you practice it. It shows you a lot of, your limiting beliefs, your insecurities. It really grows your mind, but it is so hard. And so that's kind of one of the first things I talk about with my couples of there are going to be things I say or things I suggest that you're going to want to say like, no, that doesn't apply. Absolutely not. And I'm just asking you to humor me and be open to being wrong. What if I was right? What if this might work for you? Just humor me. Like try it out and feel free to come back and say, Rachel, you're wrong. I will accept it. Or maybe come back and say like, maybe I was wrong. I'm very playful with it. But when you come to couples counseling, most of the time, because you're coming in a place of disconnection, like we're not getting that place of like, we're good and we just want to build tools as much, even though that's amazing. Even in that state, I still have to be open to being wrong. So being open to being wrong about yourself, about your partner, about what's possible in your relationship or a relationship in general, really saying like, if I truly could have the relationship I've dreamed of, what is it? And not ruling it out, but saying, and if I believed that was possible, how would I think? How would I feel? How would I behave in this relationship? How would I show up? And like explore that, be open to that. I think the second part is you have to come in and draw a line in the sand of saying, we're going to do things differently. I can't come into session and keep fighting with you in the way that we fight at home. Like it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your money. It's not purposeful. So really having that boundary with yourself of, I can bring the dynamics that are happening outside of here, but I'm going to be intentional to not repeat it in here. Or when the therapist is saying, we need to stop, this is not working, that I'm going to listen and slow myself down. Because that is the goal. You're coming in to learn something differently. And the person you're working with may not be the expert of the two of you, but they are the expert of what can help a relationship shift and change. So it kind of goes back to number one, like I have to be open to being wrong. I have to try out what this expert is saying and see if it will apply. And I have to be willing to shift. I'm here for a reason. I don't want to sabotage that. And our brains want to do what's familiar. And so it's likely we will sabotage. So we have to be so intentional to say, nope, I'm here to do it differently. I want to do it differently. The way this is playing out in our life doesn't work. So why would I come here and do something that doesn't work? It's really a waste of my time and my money and the joy that we could have in our relationship. I mean, I could probably have like a whole, like, here's the checklist of doing this well. But I think those two things in the beginning are really helpful. And then you have to take what you're learning and apply it. So many people come for, I do 2-hour sessions. So they come for 2 hours and they're like, that was a lot. We don't have to do anything the rest of the week. And I'm like, no. We just started. Like now you have to take it and apply it because it's easier here. You're coming in with an open mind. You're learning something new. But if you don't apply it, it doesn't stick. And so you have to take what you're learning and apply it between sessions. And I give my couples a plan. Like they have a whole rewiring process. It's there for them. They don't have to create it, but they do have to hold themselves accountable of like, okay, and now we're going to implement ABC this week and we are going to try it and we're going to give it our best shot. We're going to give it 100% because why wouldn't we? I know why we wouldn't, but That's the premise we're trying to build.
Let's talk a little bit about that rewiring process, because this is something that I work with my clients a lot with as well when it comes to like their relationship with food and their thoughts about their body. So it can be really scary to try something new, try something a different way. And especially if you don't have the outcome that you intended when you set out to try something different. So with that rewiring process, like, how do you help people overcome the thoughts or like the actual failures that come with trying something different? And it feels really clunky in the beginning as well.
Yeah, I just like to humanize it. You are normal. Like this is the same process for me as it is for you. Anytime we integrate something new, it is awkward, it's uncomfortable because it's not familiar. So a lot of my work is talking about like the familiar and the unfamiliar and helping people understand like, of course you go back to the familiar. It worked it worked well for a season or a period of time in your life. It's your adaptation and it got you to where you are today. So we're not shaming it. We're having a lot of compassion for it. And that accountability piece of you're here because it's not working anymore, or you're here because you recognize it doesn't allow you to have, in my case, the relationship you want, or in your case, the health that you want for yourself. And so we have that compassion, but now it's that accountability. And now we have to make that choice to try it out. And you have to try it out more than one time. So a lot of my rewiring process is the teaching, the normalizing, helping them have new information, tools, and resources, but then making a way for it to stick, giving them a plan of action of this is how you implement this. This is your focus for the next week. And we make it into like a checklist because it's that little trick for the brain of I'm doing something, I'm progressing, it feels good, it feels positive. And then we add a piece of what we call our rewire notes, where it is meant for them to kind of document their process. They can go there and be like, I hated doing the daily questions today because XYZ happened. And it's like, amazing. Thank you for telling me. Or when I did this, I felt relief. I felt so good. I felt so connected to my partner. And so that way they can see their adaptive kind of brain and their real secure brain. And so we just talk a lot about like what rewiring is, why it's so important, why the repetition has to happen between sessions. And then when they come in to the next session, I check like, how was your rewiring reps this week? How did it go? And if they're like, we didn't do them, I'm like, great. Why? Like, let's dig in, because once again, you're here for a reason. You are spending time, energy, finances to do this well. What stopped you from really giving this 100%? And we're constantly modeling that compassion and accountability. I get it. I see you. And if you don't do this, nothing will change. We like to use the metaphor of, would you like to have a kidney stone diagnosis or an ALS diagnosis? Kidney stone means you're dealing with the pain right now. It sucks. Like, it doesn't feel good, but the pain's going to end. You're going to have relief. The ALS diagnosis is that you don't have to feel the pain today, but once the pain kicks in, it doesn't stop. And it's a good metaphor because people are like, well, obviously the kidney stone. You're like, yeah. So that's what I'm asking you to do. This rewiring, this implementation may not feel good right now, but at some point it's going to be so natural, so organic. You're going to feel so good about it that you don't even think about implementing it. It just becomes a part of your nature. And it's just helping them figure out what will access that ability for their brain to say like, okay, I can lean in. I can trust this. I still don't like it, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about the adaptive versus the secure brain? Because you mentioned that briefly.
Yeah. So the majority of the work that I do with couples is really about rewiring their attachment together and moving them into secure attachment. And so we talk about the adaptive brain versus the secure or wise, safe adult version of yourself to help people understand the two parts. So we reference the Hunger Games movie with our clients about, watching Katniss Everdeen go through the Hunger Games. Right before that, she was a certain person. I mean, she cared about her family enough to volunteer, ruining the movie if no one's watched it, so sorry. Volunteer in her sister's place, and she goes to the Hunger Games. And being in that place of, I have to survive, like every second that she's in there is this constant adaptation of, I need to do this and I need to do this to get out of it. And she gets out of it. But in that process, once she's out of the Hunger Games, she doesn't turn off that adaptiveness that she created. She is still constantly on edge, feeling like she has to fight for her life, and it never turns off. And so we use that imagery to talk about, like, that's our brain. We develop this neural pathway that says, like for me, it's irrational, but if I'm walking through tall grass, my brain goes, snakes. I've never seen a snake in tall grass, but for some reason I must have seen something, read something, or made this crazy connection that in tall grass, I go, snake, and I am panicking and I look like a fool. I'm hightailing it through tall grass because I think I might get bit by a snake. In Washington, snakes are very rare. In Indiana, the garden snakes are common, but like, I didn't live in an environment around snakes, but I have this irrational adaptation that says high grass, hightail it out of there because the snakes are present. So, it's a playful version, but growing up, if you're in a household and a parent's yelling, your adaptive trait is get quiet, get small, hide away, flee, leave. So then when your partner's frustrated with you, that might trigger your brain of, oh, I know what to do now. I got to get to safety. Our adaptive side of us, it worked. It got us through. It helped us survive. And now we have a fully developed brain, a fully developed body that's saying, I keep doing this, but it doesn't necessarily work, or it doesn't feel good, or I keep finding myself experiencing that pain over and over again. Our secure self has that compassion of, I see you. I know why you exist. I know that you helped me survive so much of my life. And now I want to be a safe partner, and I want to feel safe with my partner. These protections that get triggered, or these ways I learn to adapt, are blocking or minimizing my ability to have that. So I have to have compassion, and I have to be willing to do it differently. I'll stop there because I could probably just go so much further.
No, that's amazing. And I think it helps to connect people to why maybe they respond in a certain way in any situation beyond just a conversation with your partner when maybe you're having a little bit of a stressful situation. And I think we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but besides not doing the work, what could also block couples from changing?
Our beliefs, our insecurities, are, the stories we tell ourselves. My common one is my emotions are a burden. I learned how to protect and adapt and to recognize my emotions aren't a burden anymore. I have compassion for how that helped me, but really understanding how that story negatively impacts my ability to connect with my partner, or my partner to connect with me. I think those are the most common. I think our belief in our worth, if we believe we have to do something to earn worth and connection, really impacts. The truth is we're all born with the same level of worth. There's no earning it. There's no achieving it. It's just there. It's the same for all of us. And we have to fight and rewire to believe that. Not just know it and think it, but believe it. I think those are some of the common trauma, right? Trauma can be rewired. Trauma can be healed. You have to attend to it. It's that pain piece of to really understand how this impacts me and others, to really heal from this. I do have to engage with it. I can't just keep kicking the can away and hoping it just heals itself. It requires effort and energy to heal. So I'm sure there's a bigger list too, but I think those are the most common I see with the couples I work with and the individuals that I work with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think probably what we hit the most in the work that I do with couples is this piece about the insecurities. And so we kind of have the top of it's insecurities, but that is the stories we tell ourselves, the negative beliefs, the sense of worth, and helping someone see what those are and that they can change is where we sometimes get that fixed mindset with people. And helping them recognize it plays into sabotage in their relationship. So I love sharing this story because it's easier to share real life stories for myself when I'm talking to my clients. But because I believe I'm a burden, what I need and how I feel is a burden, that plays into how I will show up and communicate or navigate something with my husband. So when we first had our daughter, being a parent is just whirlwind. There's so much shifting, and mine was during a pandemic too. So no one knew how to live life. And I just was hitting these walls. I didn't know how to take a break from work. And then you log off and parenting never turns off. And I was not good at naming I need time for me. I need space, and saying that is okay. So it always came out in a conflict of my husband's taking so much time for himself and I never get time. And it wasn't that he didn't want me to have time, but that was the story. I don't deserve it. I don't get it. My need is too much. I'm a burden. So I was in a therapy session with my own therapist, and it's I need to just go to a coffee shop, enjoy my coffee in peace, read a book, listen to a podcast. I just need me time. I need to get away and have a sense of who am I. And so I had this plan. I'm going to talk to him about this. I'm going to ask for it. But then I made all these and when he says no, this is what I'm going to say. And I had all these points for him saying no. Never once did I think he'd say yes in my processing. So I sit down and I tell him, hey, I'm burnt out. I'm maxed out. Like, I just need to go to C&P, which is a local coffee shop where we live that I love. I just need to go to C&P and have my mocha and just read a book, listen to a podcast. I just need to be. He says, absolutely, go now. I don't hear that because I prepared for him to say no. And I had all these points I needed to make. So I was like, okay, well, this is, and I like went through all my points and he said, Rachel, did you hear me say yes? I literally said, leave now. And it was so jarring because I was like, I did not hear that at all. All I knew is that he's going to say no, and I'm going to have to share these points until I convince him to say yes. So we call it knocking over dominoes. I knocked over my own dominoes to find proof that I'm right or that my emotions are a burden. But he actually, we call it mismatching. He mismatched me in that moment and was like, yes, please go. And we all do that. And sometimes we want to put the blame on our partner, but in that situation, really, it was myself sabotaging. It wasn't him. He actually did everything right. He did exactly what I was needing. But I was so stuck in that belief that I'm a burden that I never heard him say, yeah, go now. I want you to have that time. And I think what's tricky with couples is getting them to see their own sabotage because they have a narrative, they have a story, they have a belief that it's because of their partner. And part of my work is to unravel that of these dynamics and patterns started way before you and your partner ever even met. They have been developing for a lifetime and they have been impacted by other experiences. We're not invalidating, right? I've had multiple experiences where my people have told me your emotions are a burden to me. They are too much. You are too much. Like, I'm not invalidating that. That past experience is there. And I have a part in that now I have a belief that that's true. So I have thoughts that go along with that. I have feelings that go along with that. And I have behaviors that can confirm it's true. But I have power. I have control. I'm not helpless. I'm not a victim. That is true. That happened to me. But I can actually knock over dominoes that give me a different confirmation that actually show me I'm not a burden. I'm not too much. I am worthy. But I have to be willing to mismatch myself and ask to be mismatched with my partner. So that's kind of always at work with the work we're doing is why do you want to hold on to that belief? There is some pros to it. There's a sense of I'm keeping myself safe in a way. I know this more than the sense of I'm not a burden, but there are also cons to holding on to it and really challenging people of like, so do you want to keep holding on to this for the rest of your life? Because you totally have that choice.
Yes.
And I also want you to see that that's your choice. Your partner isn't necessarily making you hold on to that. They might be doing things that are unintentionally confirming it. I'm not invalidating that. But at the end of the day, you have the most power over yourself, not your partner, not your parents, not so-and-so. You do. Can you lean into that empowering state? Can you lean in and believe like there is a way to navigate this differently, but I have to make that choice for myself.
Oh, wow. That is so powerful. And part of that whole rewiring your reaction and your response to a situation. And our brains always do go to the negative. Like, oh, they're going to say no. They're going to like put a kibosh on this. They're going to come at me and tell me that I'm wrong. And so I need to like have this whole list of justification instead of actually just engaging in that communication and having a talk, a discussion about it. We can often think that it's going to turn into a disagreement. And that's not the case because, again, like you said, admitting the right and the wrong, and sometimes there's going to be neither. Nobody's going to be right or wrong in a situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does a growth mindset mean, and why does that matter in a relationship?
Yeah, so the premise of our work with couples, it takes two growth mindsets and then the right tools, the right information, the right skills. And so when those come together, we call that our success equation. And so growth mindset, I'm going to not get it fully, but we have a definition we use in our work, which is that like ignorance is not bliss, that every problem has a solution, that with the right tools and information, I can figure this out. If someone else has figured it out, so can I. Really this belief that I can do this. Other people have done this. I'm not this one person that was born into this earth that this just won't work for. So we joke like, you're special, but you're not that special. Like you aren't the one person that this information doesn't apply to. You might fight it, you might resist it, but the truth is like, this is about attachment, and we all have an attachment history and story and dynamic. So as much as you might want to say like, that doesn't apply to me, I'm going to be more stubborn and say like, okay, like maybe you feel that way in this moment, but I'm going to help you see how it does apply to you and how you do need this and you need to shift. So that growth mindset kind of incorporates like being open to being wrong, being willing to fail forward. Even if this didn't go well the first time, I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep doing this because I believe in growth and change and I want to do things differently. And it's not giving up easily. Fixed mindset is that piece of like, I can't change. I am helpless. I'm powerless. This is just the way it is. And that growth mindset is, I hate this, or this does not feel good, and I want it to be different, and I'm struggling for it to be different, but I'm not going to give up because the one time I did, in our case, like the daily questions, it went poorly. We ended in conflict. I'm not going to let that one experience be the decision maker. I'm going to say, okay, something went sideways there, and I'm going to try this tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And I'm going to keep failing forward instead of saying, this is failure. It doesn't work for me. I'm out.
Wow. So like you mentioned earlier that there's couples that you've worked with who have been to multiple couples therapists and maybe not had the outcome that they wanted. So what could people be looking for when they're looking for a couples therapist? Like how do you pick the right one who's going to help you achieve your results?
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer. I think you have to feel some kind of a connection or willingness to be vulnerable with that person. I think that's key. This is a relationship too. If the person you're sitting with feels, I don't know how to describe it, like really boring or bland, or like there's no life to them for you, it's probably not going to help you shift and change. You know, there's so many different like models and theories and styles of how people work. So that's something to consider. I'm a very direct and challenging therapist. If you're not looking for that, I am a bad fit for you. And so really just listening to like, who is the therapist? Like asking them, like, tell me how you work with couples. Like, what is your belief? What are your values? I think those are good questions to ask that people don't often ask. And I think you have to know what kind of work you want to do. So for the couples I work with, it is like, I'm looking to see if you're growth minded. And even if you have some sense of fixed mindedness, I'm going into that mindset of, can it shift? And are you open to it shifting? For couples who are just like, what did someone say to me the other day? We're coming here for arbitration. I like laughed and I was like, absolutely not. Like that is not what this place is for. And if that's what you're looking for, that's okay. I'm not that person. So it is fit. It's the person you're working with. How do they show up? I think it's knowing the relationship with that therapist. So I always encourage people to do consultation calls. Some therapists don't, some therapists do, but being able to see like, can you get a sense of how they work and who they are personality wise goes a long way. What kind of work do you want to do? Are they skilled in that work? Do they have background and training in that work? And I think with couples, it's important for you both to feel good about that person. You may not feel like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, and I want to work with her right away. But that sense of like, I think there's something with how they're going to hold us accountable or how they approach this model that's in alignment with our values and beliefs. And I think I can build trust with that person. I think the downfall of what people tend to do is they price shop. And I get that. You need to be able to invest in this, but you have to be careful about, if you're just looking for the best price, you may not get the quality therapy you're looking for. I have a clinical intern. Her price is more affordable than mine, and she does amazing work. It's just, I want people to be mindful. It's an investment. I think similar, you probably find this with your clients of like, investing in our health, there's a cost to it. There's a price to it. But look into, what does that price include for you?
Long term.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was just on a consultation call with my team, and we were talking about like, would you like to throw $1,000 out the window and maybe it might work, but maybe it won't, versus pay $2,000 to someone saying like, I can get you those results. And I think sometimes that's how we approach the things we invest in. It's like, it's a really good deal, and it might be, but there's no guarantee that it's going to last long term. And so I think people just need to consider that. I don't take insurance, one, because I don't want to play with the insurance game. Two, they say they cover couples counseling, but they don't truly cover couples counseling in the way they're meant to. And I don't want people having a say over how I get to personalize your treatment. And so I get that people need to use their insurance. I want to use my insurance when I can. It just sucks and doesn't really apply to much. But I just want people to make better decisions for themselves. Like, why are we doing this? What's the purpose? What's the goal? What's the result we want to have? We need to lead with that as we're assessing who's going to be a good fit for us.
I love that. Those are such great pointers. And I think too, with that analogy that you had of like throwing $1,000 out the window, see what works, or investing $2,000, I think too, the investment and hiring the right professional is important, but also remember that you are an active participant in this journey and not just passive. Right? We can hire trainers, we can hire therapists, we can hire nutritionists, we can hire all these people, but if we're not doing the work outside of the one-on-one sessions, or if we're not even showing up at the gym to meet the trainer, you're not going to have the results that you're desiring without being an active participant.
Yeah, I'll just add this piece, like any healthcare professional can get burnt out. And I say this because I've been that person too, of you are investing in the work with the therapist and you're doing your part. And the reality is your therapist is human too. And sometimes they're not showing up 100%. And so I just want to name, like, sometimes it is that other part, and it's okay to lovingly end that therapeutic relationship and recognize this was helping at a period of time and it's no longer. And I don't need to shame them or blame them, but that accountability to myself of I'm doing the work and I want to keep doing the work. And now I need to find the next professional for myself. Because I think sometimes, at least in the therapy industry, it seems like it can come off as like we're blaming the client. And sometimes it is the therapist needs to be more accountable too.
Yeah.
We can become passive, we can become burnt out. And so I think it can be both and of I got to be doing my part and you got to be doing your part.
Yeah, I love that. What about, let's say one partner really wants to explore couples counseling, but their partner is resistant. How do we navigate through that?
Yeah. So I'm on a team of the relationship theory model, the RTM team. So when you're like, who's these we she's talking about? That's what I'm referencing. We like to call it micro commitments. So couples therapy is a big commitment, or investing in anything for your health in your life can be a big commitment. And sometimes we just need to break it down into smaller commitments that still have that end goal, but make it more like, yes, I can commit to that today. So it is often common that one person's seeking out therapy versus the other. Sometimes it's common that both are on board, but we can put a lot of pressure on our partner of like, we're not doing well. We need to get help. We're doing this, and kind of breaking it down. So when I have people reaching out, I'm like, let's start with a micro commitment. So I might be like, see if your partner will listen to this podcast with you and just have a dialogue with you. One thing that the couples do that work with me, they do a 5-hour rewire workshop before they have the first session. So then that next micro commitment by be saying like, okay, now see if they're open to doing this 5-hour workshop with you and start there. Because we're just looking for levers that will access that openness and that growth mindset. Therapy can be scary. To do it well, most people know, like, I'm going to have to be vulnerable. I'm going to have to talk about how I feel. And I might be doing a really great job of minimizing that or avoiding it or ignoring it. And that feels safer to me. I don't want to do what's going to be asked of me. So we don't want to shame it. And we tend to shame it with our partners. So really instead saying like, this is what I want to do. Are there steps you're willing to take with me if you're not willing to take that step yet? Are you willing to do a weekly date night with me? Are you willing to listen to this podcast or read this book or listen to this audiobook with me? And I think people give up on their partners too quickly because they didn't give them what they wanted. And so anytime I'm seeing people present that way, I'm just like, let's make a smaller commitment. Would you be open to getting on a consultation call with me? It's free. You don't have to sign up for anything. That will be there if you want to, but are you just open to that consultation call? And are you open to that podcast? Are you open to reading this book? And even when they start working with me, we can still utilize that. Like, this is a micro commitment. We're making this commitment for this week. These are the rewire reps for this week. These are the rewire reps for the next week. And it opens someone up. They feel like they have more say, more autonomy. It feels like less intensity. And it's a really useful skill for anything in our life. For me, for my health, just because I know you're in the health world, it's that what if I started walking with a weighted vest? And then maybe I'll start running, or maybe I'll start eating one vegetable with every meal, right? Like if I go and say like, I have to just only eat vegetables forever, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm like, no, I like fried chicken and I like mashed potato. Like, I don't want that. But it's easier for me to say like, okay, I'm going to start working out 2 times a week. I'm going to start taking one supplement, and I'm going to try that for a period of time, and helping people have grace. Like, give it some time. Don't go heavy to the metal. Like, slow it down. Let your partner have some breathing room and ease into this with you. We want this to last. This isn't a quick fix. And so you have to be patient and slow it down. And a lot of times people are like, I've been patient. I'm like, I get it and I see you. And you want them to join you in this. Let's set you up for success. You're going to have to do something different here. It is a relationship problem. So let me help you help bring them into this work.
Absolutely. I think too, it's important to recognize like the problems didn't just appear overnight. These are usually years and years and years of communication breakdown and not being heard or being validated and things like that. Same thing with your health and wellness journey. These didn't just show up overnight. There are things that were happening for years that led to the state that we're in now. So we have to unravel this slowly by building a really solid foundation. You can't throw a roof on a house without having a foundation poured first. So if you're just trying to get to the top very quickly, it's going to crumble, right? We can't bypass that foundation level. And just like if you're going to go run a half marathon, you don't sign up for the half marathon and run the next day. You train for 3 months getting up to that half marathon. This is a slower process than what a lot of people like to go. We want that immediate gratification, but slow your roll a little bit. Enjoy the process.
Yeah, I think that's the downfall of our society. There's so much instant gratification. So then when it comes to things where it's like, this will take time, they're like, no, I don't think so. I'll just end this relationship. And you're like, that's also going to take time.
It costs money.
It costs money. And you have autonomy, right? Like, my job is to show you that things can change and be different. And at the end of the day, I could show you it all, and you can still make that choice that you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I will be so frustrated. But it is your life. It's your choice. You have to do the work. I'm not the one married to your partner. I will show you all that you can do. But at the end of the day, you're the implementer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can want it so much more for our clients, but we match your pace. We meet you where you're at. Yep. So yeah. Well, Rachel, this was amazing. This was so helpful. I think so many people are going to find so many benefits from listening to this podcast episode. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yep. So our practice name is Connected Couples Counseling. So you can find us at connectedcouplescounseling.com, on Instagram. We try to share kind of free resources, suggestions, tips. We do a monthly blog. And then for those who are like, she's talking about this team, this model, I'm a part of the relationship theory model. So that's relationshiptheorymodel.com. So you can just learn more about that kind of model and approach that I utilize with couples.
Amazing. And Rachel has made available for us a free guide. It is a relationship check-in guide, and we'll put that in the show notes for you guys so that you can easily access that. But this was so wonderful. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Healthy Buzz. I hope this conversation has left you feeling seen, supported, and ready to take the next step in your health journey. Love what you heard? Make sure you subscribe to Healthy Buzz so you never miss an honest conversation. And if you found this valuable, please take a moment to leave a review. I truly appreciate it. For exclusive weekly tips and holistic strategies, be sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. The link is in the show notes. Remember, this isn't just nutrition, it's permission to trust your body. I'll catch you on the next episode of Healthy Buzz.